All right, welcome to Talking Investing. I'm Tom, and as always, this is not financial advice. Today, I want to do our Bitcoin and Bitcoin miner update. This is a weekend edition. It is Saturday, so the Bitcoin miners are not trading today, but I want to show everybody where they ended on Friday, and we've had some significant developments in Bitcoin's movement as well. So I want to go through all of that, bring everybody up to date. We cover Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners all the time on this channel. So if that is content that you're interested, please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Also, if everybody could smash the like button, it helps the channel out a lot. It really helps this video get out to more people. So you guys have been doing a great job at that, and I appreciate it very much. Also, drop a comment below. I read all the comments. Okay, let's talk about Bitcoin. I'm going to start with the big board. This is where all of the equities, this is where all the Bitcoin miners closed on Friday. And I'm just going to revisit this, although this was no fun for anybody. It was a very red day, but this is where we left off. And we have been experiencing some downward momentum. So if you guys know on this channel, for those of you who are new to the channel, and for those of you who have been here, you already know this. For about 7 weeks, I was very bullish. I thought we were having a relief rally, and we got within $100 of my price target on that relief rally, and then we turned around, and since then, we're headed down. So I do have some price targets that I've been talking about over the last week to the downside. So I'm going to look at those, and I'll let you guys know the spots that I'm looking to dollar cost average in. And again, this is not financial advice. I'm just letting you know what I'm doing. You guys got to make your own decisions. You'll see the board is red from top to bottom with one exception. Mawson, stock ticker MIGI, was up 4%. So I did a second video this week on Mawson. You can check that out right here. I think that that is the reason, not my video, but their press release is the reason that they had a little bit of upward momentum while the rest of the market, is very red. This was an extremely red day for most miners. You'll see Bitfarms was down 8%, HUT was down over 8%, Hive was down over 11%. This is the third day in a row that Hive has had significant downward pressure. So if we look at the big three, these are the three with the biggest market caps, Riot, Marathon, and Core Scientific. They were all down significantly. Riot was down 8.6, Marathon was down almost 12%, Core Scientific was down almost 8%, and it goes on from there. So I'll give you a minute to look at the rest of the board. You guys are probably all too familiar with this, and you don't need a reminder. That was Friday. Friday was a down day, and that down day was brought to you by Jerome Powell, the chairman of the Federal Reserve, because you're going to see when we go to the charts, the second he started talking, and this tends to be the situation. We talked about this on the live stream the night prior to him speaking. The chairman of the Fed speaking is usually not a good event for the markets in general. So the entire markets, the equity markets, the cryptocurrencies, everything tanked during and after his speech. So we're going to go to the charts. Let's take a look at the chart, and I'm going to show you what I mean by that, and then we'll see what has developed since then. Okay, so this is the Bitcoin chart on the 30-minute time frame, and I'm going to go to right here. This green line is around 21,795. That's where we were hanging around when Jerome Powell started talking. So you can see these are 30-minute candles. So from the moment he started talking, we had three 30-minute candles. That's an hour and a half, and it was only a 10 or 11-minute speech, but it just created massive, immediate downward pressure. Now, I will say for Bitcoin, this line of support kind of caught us. You'll see we're mostly below it, but hanging around this line of support for several hours. This was still only the middle of the day. The rest of the market continued its downward pressure for the rest of the day. All of the major indexes in the United States were down anywhere from 3 to 4%. The NASDAQ was down almost 4%. So there really wasn't any new news, but he very vigorously reiterated his position in the absence of the Fed talking, and they did not have a meeting this week. A lot of people were starting to feel like the Fed was going to reverse course sooner than later, and that narrative had kind of taken over, and I think the market, just to a small extent, was pricing that in. So when Jerome Powell came out and basically just reiterated his previous stance that no, that's not the case. So I think this is just a short-term reaction because there was no new news in that at all. And again, it was just a 10 or a 10.5 minute speech. It was basically a history lesson on inflation, and he just reiterated that their number one goal is to get down to their target inflation rate at 2%, and they're going to continue to raise interest rates and quantitative tightening until they reach that goal. We spent the better part of 8 hours going sideways after this, and again, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. We were really struggling with this line, so you can see after Jerome Powell's speech, we found some support at this line, but quickly this started to turn from support into resistance, and then we bumped up against it for, 6 or 8 hours. I will tell you, I was doing a live stream during these candles right here, here, and I was trying to stretch it out, thinking we might catch the next leg down. I finished my live stream during this candle right here, so you can see we were still hanging on at that point. Well, right after we finished up, bam, we took that next leg down. And sure enough, overnight we did go all the way down to the next line of support. So I'm going to zoom out to the 4-hour time frame. And again, this was the 2-month cycle where this was a very, very strong relief rally. This was about 43% from the low down in the 17,500 range to the high, just over 25,000 back on August 15th. So you can see a clear break to the downside on the 4-hour time frame. This is extremely obvious, right? This was an extended period of relief, and then, when it was over, it was over. And we ran right down to my first line of support, which was at $20,700. That's this blue line. So I had been calling that my optimistic line because I didn't really believe that we were going to find long-term support at that line. That was a very optimistic outlook, but we did find actually a full week of support at that line. So that actually exceeded my expectations. However, Chairman Powell's speech did take us from, a week of upward momentum to immediately breaking that line. And you can see once we broke this blue line of support, it was straight down to this pinkish red line of support. That line is just under $20,000. So $20,000 is a psychological line of support, in my opinion. Just under $20,000 was the peak of the previous bull cycle. So that goes back to 2017. I don't know whether that will happen or not, but I am still expecting more likely. My most likely target was this green line right here, which is just over 19,000, between 19,000 and 19,200. So that is not much further down, but I do think there's a little more pressure down. And I will say my fourth and final line of support was at 17,500, and that would be a full retest of our lows from June. And to me, that was the low for Bitcoin. So I've been calling that the low. If we take it out on this run, then that will have been wrong. But for now, I believe this was the lows. We were in extreme fear at this point. All of the indicators were that we were at historic levels of oversold. In fact, at almost every time frame, we were more oversold on Bitcoin than we've ever been in its history. So that felt like a very strong signal across the board that that was the low. However, we'll have to wait and see. So again, my target price is somewhere around 19,000 to 19,200. I do think 17,500 is on the table. I'm averaging in. So what I said when we were back up here is that I would use these 4 lines to be averaging in to the miners, right? I believe that this was the bottom. We may go revisit it, so I don't know. So for me, each one of these was potentially the turnaround point for this downward cycle. So I will buy in at each one of those. I'll buy in at 17,500. If for some reason there is some external force that is very bearish and causes us to get to a new low, I do have lines below this, but I don't want to talk about any of the lines below 17,500 because that has been my floor over the last several months. So I'm not going to change that right now. If we take that out, I'll talk about some of the lines underneath that we may be headed to. But again, I believe that 17,500 was the bottom. That was set back in the middle of June. If we revisit it, I think it will be on a flash type of a situation where, we really don't even close a daily candle down there. It would just get down and candle wick back down to that. So that is my opinion. Okay, so if I go to the 4-hour RSI, you'll see we basically revisited this bottom that we hit back in the middle of June. And that's, just about a week before we bottomed out at 17,500. So I think that was the bottom on the RSI. We almost retested that. And again, you're not going to get to the exact same point. So for me, this is a successful retest of that. We got all the way back to neutral, which is 50 on the RSI. When we're in a downward cycle or a bearish cycle, getting back to 50 on the daily RSI is almost a little bit of a reset. It's back to neutral, and it gives the sellers a lot of room to create some selling pressure. So we're seeing that here. So I don't expect to revisit this bottom on the 4-hour RSI. I think we're in the bottoming process. So I've said this several times on the channel. I think we were in a bear market. That lasted, the better part of 8 months, and it was brutal. We had a recovery rally that lasted 7 or 8 weeks, and that was nice. And now I think this is all part of the bottoming process. So when I say the 17,500 was the bottom, that was back in June. It could take 2, 3, 4 months to finish the bottoming out process. And at some point, I do believe we will return to bullish for Bitcoin before the end of this year. So again, that is just my opinion. We caught ourselves at this blue line and got a nice rally for a week. This orange line right here sitting right on top of the blue line, that is where Bitcoin was when the equity markets closed on Friday. So that was still in the middle of trying to hold this line. Well, that did not hold, so of course we ran right down to the next line. So you can see we candle wicked right down to this line, and so far today, this is on the daily time frame, we have not gone below this line. So we will see. Let's take a look at the RSI. Okay, so this is the middle of the day, so we need to wait for this candle to close before we really confirm this. But as we sit here in the middle of the day, back on August 19th, we got just under 33 on the daily RSI. We are currently sitting at 31.4, so we have made a lower low on the daily RSI. However, the daily candle is not closed yet. So if that closes lower than it did a few days ago at around 33, then that will be a lower low on the daily time frame for the RSI. And I do think we can expect to see the RSI get into oversold territory and potentially, I've drawn this green line here at 21. That's where we bottomed out in the middle of June. Again, that's when Bitcoin hit its bottom at 17,500 as well. So I do think we could go as far oversold as down to the low 20s. But certainly I think that we are on the path to get back into oversold territory. Anything under 30 technically would be a reset, but you know, this tends to get down more towards 25 at least. So, and that's why, going back to the chart, I believe we're going to move from this pink line, which we have now hit. That's our second price target. I think we'll move down to this green line is my next guess. And again, not financial advice. All of this charting is not a science. So if you look at different people's charts, you're going to see different things. This is what I think. So, and I'm telling you my line of reasoning behind that. So I'm sticking with that. This was my most likely case scenario line, this green line at around 19,200. My final line was at 17,500. So I'm still leaving that on the table. We could very well candle wick down to that. I don't think we're going to get pressure and start closing daily candles below that. But if we do, then I am going to have to revisit my scenario, because then my price target to the downside will have been incorrect and we're going to need to reassess. But in the meantime, this is playing out fairly similarly to how I expected. So we'll see if that continues to play out. If it does, then in my opinion, there's a little more downward pressure to come. Again, we are at another one of my lines. So if we're still down here on Monday, I'm going to use that as an opportunity to dollar cost average into a few Bitcoin miners. So I'm going to leave it at that for today. I will do another video tomorrow if something significant happens. If we just continue to play out this exact scenario, I have a different video in mind for tomorrow. So I'll do another Bitcoin update on Monday. But if something drastic happens, I will see you guys then tomorrow. So enjoy your weekend. Thanks so much for watching. And remember, please subscribe to the channel and please smash the like button. It makes such a huge difference. So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.